How did you become a musician? What's your personal story as a performer?
I grew up in a household with a grand piano, and my mother played, and I started taking piano lessons when I was 6. I think everybody should start with piano lessons, don't you? And because it gives you polyphony at your fingertips. Comes in later in teaching and all sorts of things. But my teacher, may she rest in peace, reminded me of Agnes Moorehead in Dora on Bewitched, with the flaming red hair and the red lipstick, and she scared me to death. So I lasted 2 years on the piano, and then my 3rd grade teacher was a violinist, and she brought her violin to school one day and played for us, and she was the associate concertmaster at the symphony, and she said, "Would somebody like to try to play this?" You know, and so I raised my hand, went up and made some horrible noises on it, and was hooked immediately, you know? And I bugged my parents for several months until they finally, okay, we'll do it. So we started violin lessons.
So you had a piano at home?
Yes.
So there was music at home, but were
Music
your
at home.
parents musicians?
Yeah, well, they weren't professional musicians.
Okay.
But they both, my mother played the piano very well, and they both sang. So, yeah, I grew up around music. My mother took me to concerts.
I think we all have a story with scary piano teachers, though, right?
Do we?
Somehow.
I don't know. Well, maybe some violin teachers too.
Maybe,
but
maybe.
my violin teachers were fine. It's the piano teacher who puts fear of God in me, you know. So anyway.
Next question is about your HSO history. When did you join the orchestra? And if you can remember, what was your first concert here?
I read that question and I have racked my brain trying to. Usually I can come up with this stuff too. My first concert here was in spring of 1977. Were you even born then?
Yeah,
Okay,
I was.
but you were little.
I was 4 years old.
You're 4 years old. Okay, well, my first concert here was in 1977, and I don't remember what we were playing. And the way it was back then was, you came in for the dress rehearsal on Saturday morning, you played the concert, and you left with a check for $100. That was your day. And you know, that went on for years. And then things changed where, well, we'd like a little more commitment from you people outside town if we could, so they started making us come to all the rehearsals. And that's when things changed. And then in 1998, I was invited to be concertmaster. And so I said, okay. And then, you know, went on through the 3 music directors.
And by then, this has become more of an established group, right?
It wasn't the same band I first played in '77.
So from a local, semi-amateur group,
exactly.
it
became much more professional, especially when they started demanding that we come in for rehearsals. You know that
rehearsals help.
Oh yeah, don't they though? I mean, I can remember one program. The programs weren't easy either. So actually, I've been playing through 4 music directors, but I was concertmaster for 3. And I remember one Saturday, we were doing the Strauss Oboe Concerto.
Which is a beautiful piece.
Oh, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a beautiful piece. And but I was sitting, you know, it's usually in the back of the first violin section, and I was asked if I would move to this 3rd chair, please. Fortunately, I knew the Strauss Oboe Concerto, so I didn't fall in any of the holes one can fall in. And so I think that helped. And anyway, so like I say, in '98, I became concertmaster. And those were great years.
And you were concertmaster here. I assume you have been playing with other groups outside of Huntsville, and you continue to do so. So tell us a little bit about your musical life outside of Huntsville.
Extracurricular activities.
Your extracurricular activities.
Okay, at that time I was playing in 2000. I started playing in the National Chamber Orchestra, and did some recordings with them, and also still played in the Chattanooga Symphony, and and subbed in the Nashville Symphony too at the same time. So, yeah, and actually played on one of the recordings that got a Grammy. So I have a Grammy participation.
What about chamber music?
Chamber music, I did a lot of chamber music in Chattanooga because that was part of the job. All the aspects of the Huntsville position I think the one that I missed the most was chamber music because there just wasn't any. It wasn't part of the job, and it didn't seem like it would ever be part of the job, really.
Have you ever thought of going into like string quartet playing? Because many violinists would love to do just that. It's more than enough for one lifetime, right? Or that repertoire, and it's great.
Just ask Arnold.
But it's a lifestyle also.
It totally is. But I tell you, every time I sit down to either coach a group or play something, I always say, this is why we do this. I mean, I love orchestra playing. You have to, if you do as much of it as I do still. But there's nothing like playing in a string quartet or quintet. You know, the coda, the closing minutes of the Brahms Clarinet Quintet. If that doesn't get you, oh,
there's something wrong.
There's something, or you're dead. One or the other. Those are the only two choices. I mean, to play something like that is just, or even the sextet version, or the actually Verkleine Nacht, which I like to do with string bass plus the sextet. String bass playing.
It adds to.
You've got
to it. Yes,
if you've heard the
definitely.
chamber orchestra version,
yeah.
and you've got to have that bass. And so I think the sextet version fails in that, but with the bass, it's fabulous. So anyway, yes, chamber music. I love chamber music.
So you've been in this business for quite long.
A few years.
We can make that statement, I guess.
You certainly, I will not deny it.
How do you see the future of this whole business? Not just symphonic orchestras, but like this whole classical music business, and how your view changed, if it has, I don't know, like in the past 20, 30 years. Are you more optimistic or less optimistic, or is it the same?
What a question. It sort of depends on where you are, the situation you're in. I've always been impressed with Huntsville's support of the arts, the support of the symphony. The Huntsville Symphony Guild is a force of nature. We have the shell on the stage thanks to the Huntsville Symphony Guild. And, or at least that's the story I've heard. I think that's the case. If you have good community support, I think you've got it. And I think probably classical music has always been in danger. I don't think there's been a time where we can look back and say, well, this was a golden age. We just had everything we needed.
Unless in hindsight you say, well, when Bernstein was doing TV shows on classical music, it was a completely different. Maybe society's approach to it was different. The way they were thinking about classical music, even if they didn't know anything about it. But
I think what has changed. I think what has changed is it's not. You don't get it in the schools like you did. When I was growing up, the librarian was kind of the music teacher for the school. What we did was, a couple of times a week, we would go into the library and we'd listen to music. And it's amazing, that bit of exposure, when you hear things like Scheherazade and the major symphonic repertoire, and she would play it for us. And without, as far as I can remember, great explanation, now this is what happens here. Now, we just listen to it, and it does something to you.
But it was also a social experience, right? Listening together.
Yes, exactly, it was. And then, my thing has always been, if you look at pictures of audiences in the Metropolitan Opera in the 30s, it's all old people. You look through, and you will look in vain for anyone under the age of 60 in that audience. And I think thus it has always been. It's something, but you won't do that unless you've heard it, unless you remember it from your childhood. Then when you're through with raising your kids and so forth, then you have time to think about things like that, and then you go, let's go to the symphony, let's go to the opera, and you can it takes its place. But I think we've lost it in the schools, not having that much exposure to it. And it doesn't have to be, it's not all playing instruments. That's very helpful. But I think the sheer act of listening, just the attention that it brings toward the music, that alone, I think, has the power to sort of invade your life and take a place in it that becomes meaningful, and it gives you something to feed on the rest of your life, if you're lucky. And that we're missing that.
So your life is music, and my life is music. So it's probably difficult for us to imagine it any other way. But I was talking to Charles Hogue just before you, and he's teaching adult string classes. And it's interesting to me how people who are not musicians, right? But they want to play, even if they didn't have a chance when they were kids. But now they play viola or violin or cello. So that's their hobby. What's your hobby? What do you do outside of music that might not be related to music at all?
Is there life outside of music?
As far as I'm concerned, there isn't.
I'm kind of on that page too. When I read that question, I thought, well, this is going to be brief. That's hard to say. You know what I love? I love traveling. I'll be in Spain this time next month.
Where in Spain?
Everywhere. We'll be all over Spain for a month, including a week on the Spanish version of the Orient Express.
Nice.
Which should be very fun. But I don't do model railroad. It's funny, and that's a scary question. Perhaps I need to do something else.
Well, yeah, I think we all think that. Well, we ought to just get a little bit closer to what most people consider normal, but I don't think we should do it.
Oh, I've tried to go as far the opposite direction as possible.
However, I know that you love opera, right? So within what you do, you do have a passion that's not necessarily your everyday work, because you're not playing in an opera orchestra,
exactly.
but you're listening to it, you know it, you love your singers.
Yes, as you know. And how is your mother, by the way?
Thank you. She's doing well.
That's wonderful. Please tell her I said hello. Pardon me for a moment. Yes, I adore vocal music, all of it. Debussy, Ravel, Schumann, Schubert, Brahms, Wolf, you name it. It's like mother's milk to me. I can't.
So which came first? Was it vocal music in your life, or was it string music?
Well, it was string music, and I had a dear friend in undergraduate school who was a singer, a baritone, who introduced me to the world of lieder. And every time I think about that, I go, thank you, God, thank you, John, for doing that, because that has been the gift of a lifetime, and so, yeah, vocal music to me, to hear Leontine Price sing Depuis le jour, and that high B at the end that just soars, and God, why pick up the violin? But we
to imitate that,
because I like to eat. Yes, there is that. Yes.
Yeah,
it's true. Vocal music is a big part of my life, and always has been, since college, since my freshman year, when I discovered Fischer Dieskau, and Fritz Wunderlich, people like that. UC Bjork. Well, of course, I knew about UC Bjork because I'd sung in the opera chorus in high school.
Oh, nice. Okay.
In 1971.
So there is some vocal history there.
Well, yeah, actually, I did sing in the opera chorus in high school, and I remember we were doing a production of Madame Butterfly, and the chorus master said, now, I was the bass baritone, obviously. And so the chorus master said, there are no low parts in this opera. It's all second tenor. Second tenor is the lowest thing. But he said, you need to know this show. So come sing second tenor. So I stood backstage and sang the humming chorus, and I danced the maypole in Bartered Bride and things like, I did 4 productions in the chorus, while my teacher was concertmaster in the pit, So it's the best of both worlds. It really was. And I love the camaraderie with the singers. Yeah, it's great. I like singers. I've been married to 2, so,
There you go.
I've done my bit for musical marriages.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.
Thank you. So honored to be asked.
Honor is mine.